With Burberry recently falling out of the FTSE 100 and the noticeable decline in demand for the brand overall, many are calling for Daniel Lee's head to be on the chopping block next when it comes to creative directors being booted out. If you're new to my content in the channel, you probably don't know how hard I have ridden for Burberry and Daniel Lee as a collaborative project. I've always been a big advocate of his at the brand, and I fell in love with his direction with the brand specifically from the first collection he showed. However, even I can see that things just aren't working the way they should do at the brand, and something really needs to change to get the tills ringing again. And that's why today I'm going to run through my ideas and my concepts as to where Burberry has failed, and how realistically I would save Burberry if I was at the helm. Hi, I'm Henry, and this is The Lowdown, where I talk about everything and anything fashion related. If you're new around here, make sure to subscribe and drop a like and a comment down below to help with the algorithm. And make sure you stay tuned to more content coming soon. So firstly, when it comes to things that I think that Burberry aren't doing well right now, it's definitely colour, excitement and general flair in the collection. The main thing that attracted me to Daniel Lee at Burberry for SS24 was definitely the incorporation of colour and switching up that signature fabric and signature panelling, which we all know and love, by adding vibrancy and flair that we hadn't seen being done before. However, I really think in more recent shows and recent collections, the brand looks to be taking on board a more monotone, scaled back look, with far more earthy tones and fabrics throughout the products. Considering the stark contrast in that first collection to what we'd known from Burberry prior, adding these red, blue, yellow tones to the Burberry check print, which we didn't even know was allowed in the past, to then shift back to more muted colours, it seems very odd to instantly revert back from something which ultimately was the big talking point about the new direction of the brand. Given the fashion landscape right now and the importance, I guess, of quiet luxury in the industry, if you're not making a name for yourself by doing quiet luxury and that minimal aesthetic, I think there's a real appetite for bold, outlandish pieces, which that first collection did have. And I think you need to be shouting about, metaphorically, these key pieces which are so different from the quiet luxury aesthetic, and going down that direction to make a name for yourself. A clear prime example of this is J.W. Anderson, both at his own label and at Loewe. Whether it be the standout bold cuts and silhouettes that run through the entire collection, or eye-catching accessories like the pigeon or the hedgehog bag, they really know how to do stuff that's exciting, exhilarating, and all in all, just different to what everyone else is doing. Whilst I don't think Burberry need to go out and find an animal to make into their next bag, I think they definitely have missed a trick with not riding the wave of those really colourful and albeit obnoxious prints, which had so many heads turning with that first collection. Some of the products that really jumped out to me were the wool overcoat, the hooded scarf, as well as the trapper hat with the fur lining. They were so big, in your face, and you couldn't ignore them for every right reason. But I actually think the lackluster success of these may have ended up being a deterrent for them doing them in the future, that they've gone back on this bold direction because of some of the other issues I'll outline later on in the video. Whilst you're here, you may as well also drop a comment below about what your favourite SS24 piece was from the collection. I'd be really intrigued to see if my opinion is the same as yours, and if we both think that they've missed a trick here. The next thing I think that Daniel Lee's Burberry really messed up was logistics, costs, and stores. I think logistics, especially given the impact of Brexit for a British brand, is very, very difficult, and there's a reason there's a whole department and industry focus on it. It's not the easiest thing to tackle at the best of times, especially with ongoing economic and global crises, but it's definitely something which you need to have a very firm grasp on, especially in the fashion industry, to ensure your products arriving at the right time and in the right places. But the first Burberry Daniel Lee collection was set to launch in March 2024, and that's across all stores, retailers, any channel, you name it. However, it wasn't until September, 6 months after that date, give or take a few, that the brand then could finally show the full collection in their stores and at other major outlets. I even think I've heard still to this day they're delivering SS24, or at least trying to deliver this product to other key stockists. So, to put it bluntly, the highly anticipated first collection from your new creative director landed half a year late, and by this time they had already shown the new direction for the brand for autumn-winter 24, which, as I mentioned before, was completely different to the SS24 collection. And I really think that this would have put off even Burberry's biggest fans from buying anything. You don't know what they're doing with the brand, whether your product's going to be outdated by the time you buy it, and it just creates more reasons for you not to spend money at Burberry. And then you've also got to look at the seasonality of the product. All these items which you probably could have just caught the last glimpse of cold weather in the UK if they were meant to actually deliver February, March time, which they didn't. So why would you buy them in summer? Additionally, Burberry cut back on their distribution massively, as many luxury high-end houses have done, trying to have a more firm grasp on where they sell the product and ultimately making more money for them rather than having to wholesale it out. Whilst I can understand the desire to regain control and strip back and be more, I guess, powerful in understanding where your product's selling and how you want to sell it to, I think they sacrifice a lot of revenue by cutting this back. And you could argue if they hadn't cut it back, they would have still had money coming in. And given the current landscape, cutting out potential money and potential contracts is a big no-no. And then to top it all off, they raise prices too. So you've not only got product which is outdated and late, key retailers not actually having your product anymore, but it costs double, sometimes even triple what you may have expected or bought from them the season before. It raises a lot of questions about, is the quality better? Is it worth the money? And another reason why you might not buy something. So you put this all together into this dangerous looking cocktail and a logistical nightmare, and it seems like a real do or die moment. Everything could have gone so right, but as we saw, it all went so wrong. You've not only alienated your core customer. When I went to actually see the collection for the first time with my friend Micah at the Burberry store, they outlined how they had to bring back a lot of their signature Novacek product in those beige tones to satisfy their big clients who still had the demand for it and weren't resonating with a new direction. You then also had to keep them waiting to see the new direction that they might have then bought in place of that old product. You've then also got to justify the new price point to them and then also tell them that they can't get it from the retailer that's closer to home. I think making one of these moves would have been a bit of a bold take, but to do all three at the same time just seems like a recipe for disaster. For me, I don't think the price hike was necessary. I can understand that given all the other players are doing the same thing, that maybe they thought this was something that they could capitalize on. But I think Burberry's always been in a bit of a weird space where it's not been quite super high end, but it's been on the cusp of it. And I think it should have held its place as being something aspirational and accessible to the everyday customer, but also being something that a high end and very wealthy customer would still be interested in buying regardless. I think you can look at brands maybe a bit like Stone Island, where they have that product that resonates with someone on a lower income and that's potentially younger, but they also have the likes of their shadow projects and all those signature jackets which are made in very small quantities to a very high quality and also aren't that easy to get. I think if they allowed themselves to cater to a wider variety of customer, they would never have had as many issues trying to win a customer, because you would have that core base still there who still love you. Sure, you raise prices, keep the mega rich happy, but you alienate so many people who you actually see now have no money to afford those new prices, so they will never buy from your brand. And I also think catering towards that super 0.1% or 1% client in the long run doesn't actually become that worthwhile, especially when you see the change in demand for quiet luxury and how they are now moving towards brands like Loro Piana, The Row, etc. So by making these errors, they ultimately just lost their way. This perfectly leads on to the next point about how I think Burberry missed the mark even with their marketing and being able to play the market in a way that promoted their new brand and the new direction. Definitely pivoted to a more contemporary and youthful marketing direction when Daniel Lee took over. You can see this by their concentration on short, snappy, fun content across TikTok, Instagram, etc. And then you could also see it with their partnerships with the likes of Norman's in London and how they took that British breakfast look global. They're definitely trying to tap into that Gen Z and really play the algorithm, so to speak. Further aided this by the likes of Irish Law, Naomi Campbell, walking the show, alongside campaigns with Lennon Gallagher. So playing the book by giving people what they love and have known for a long time in that supermodel space, also giving them that new appetite for the Nepo babies coming through. I think this attempt to tap into a more fashion conscious and younger client has had mixed results, but you can definitely see the direction they were going for and what they wanted to execute. But I do think they fell short with this. With the speed at which social media stars and creators are basically born overnight nowadays, it's paramount to be ahead of the curve with influencers as well as marketing campaigns, and I guess beating everyone else. While scripting this, we have seen the latest Burberry campaigns launch, featuring the likes of Cole Palmer, Barry Cohen, Little Sims, and Olivia Colman. In parts, I've really enjoyed this marketing rollout. I think they used a lot of key influencers and stars, which people hadn't really tapped into before, and also made a lot of sense for the Burberry brand. However, all of them together seemed like a weird combination, as well as what the people were doing within the campaigns. Because I'm sorry, what has Cole Palmer and fishing got to do with each other? And why have I watched a 2-minute video on him making a cup of tea? An overall mixed bag, much like Daniel Lee's time at Burberry at the minute, where the brand seems just on the cusp of doing so well, but ultimately falls short. I think all of these would have sat a lot stronger individually or paired up better. Little Sims with Olivia Colman, Cole Palmer with Eze. It makes a bit more sense. I think it would have been a lot better as well if they did something maybe a little more obvious with the likes of Cole Palmer. I don't think the guy who's looking at Burberry and cares about Cole Palmer in the Burberry stuff would really understand why Burberry want him to make a cup of tea for 2 minutes. They'd be much more interested in seeing Cole Palmer go on an away day, or maybe at a good old-fashioned British pub, and I think that still falls in line with what Burberry are trying to do with that direction, without being something too weird that would maybe push away people that weren't already interested in the brand. And then you can tie in both the product that the older clientele likes with that synonymous Novacek print, but also tap into something that's a little bit more cutting edge and incorporate those newer pieces, while still delivering it in a digestible and marketable way. And I think when you look at the likes of Jacquemus in the industry and how important their marketing is to their brand identity and how people perceive them, there's been a lot of talk about Jacquemus's products not living up to the expectations because of their marketing. But ultimately people are still buying the products, even if they're not quite what they wanted in the end. I guess to summarise, as much as I will hate to say it, Daniel Lee at Burberry just isn't working right now. But I don't think it's because of his designs, I think it's about a lot of things around it, and maybe things coming from higher up. I think the direction set by these higher ups and the brand overall has negatively impacted how they perform in the market and has seen them lose so much revenue, and has thus negatively impacted the execution of his creative direction. But regardless of this, I do think it'd be a big shame if they were to split up. I don't really think there's anybody out there that would do more at Burberry or be able to take it to the next level like he is. We saw from his work at Bottega how amazing he is as a creative director, so I would think they would be shooting themselves in the foot even more so by getting rid of him. But as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you like Daniel Lee at Burberry? Do you think it's a match made in heaven, or do you actually think they need to part ways and just give up? And also let me know what you think's working there and what's not, and if any of my points were correct or really wrong. Once again guys, thanks for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.